Hello everyone! So in today's video I have another special little treat for you. So every now and then I do like to craft something. So something I did last year and I did again this year is make this old-fashioned paper mache jack-o'-lantern. So I'm going to show you guys how to make this too today. This is just if you're a little bored and want something fun to do, or maybe if you're just trying to save a few bucks on those carvable pumpkins, because we know they can get expensive. So I'm going to show you how to make this pumpkin, and feel free to try it out yourselves. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is take a balloon and blow it up to a size that you like. What I then did was take some twine and wrap it around the pumpkin. This is to help make it a bit more round and kind of give it those indents that pumpkins have naturally. Unfortunately, mine didn't work out too well with the indents, so if you find a better method, by all means go ahead and use it. Once you have your balloon to a size that you like, you're going to leave a little bit of that twine at the top so that you can make a loop so that your pumpkin can hang off of something. We are going to be putting wet paper on this, so you want it to be able to dry all around, and you don't want to have a soggy bottom. That does not work out very well. Next, you are going to make a flour water mixture. I like to make sure that mine is thick enough so that it will create a strong enough bond, and you also do not want it to be runny because it's pretty much just water at that point. So try to make sure you have a decent amount of both flour and water in that mixture. Then I just took some scraps of old printer paper that I didn't need and ripped them up into squares. So you can do this as well, or if you just want to cut some new fresh pieces of paper, feel free to do that as well. Once you have enough pieces of scrap paper, you're going to put them into the flour water mixture. I like to make sure my scrap pieces have enough of a coating on one side so that they stick well onto the balloon. I even used a paintbrush at one point. I did find that this helped with making that even coating and it was slightly less messy. So you might find that that works well too. Then just continue to place those squares of paper all over your pumpkin. And this might prove a bit difficult, but try to make sure to lift up those twine strings to get the paper under there. So after each layer, make sure to let it dry completely. I ended up doing 4 layers on my pumpkin. Of course, if you want to do a little less or a little more, feel free. Just make sure that you have enough layers on there so that the shape remains sturdy and doesn't cave in. Unfortunately, halfway through this process, my original balloon did deflate and caused the paper mache to wrinkle, so I did have to reinflate it with a new balloon. I am not a paper mache expert, so if any of you guys in the comments have suggestions on how to prevent this in the future, by all means, please share. So once you have enough paper layers and they're all dry, you can pop a hole in that balloon and take the twine off. You will have a hole at the top of the balloon, so what I'm going to make to cover that is actually a stem. Make sure that you have a piece of paper that is big enough to cover that hole and then some. So I'm just going to make a 6-pointed star shape here, and that will serve as the base of my stem. Next, for the top of the stem, I'm going to cut a approximately 2 by 5 inch rectangle. About 1/2 inch from the edge of the rectangle, draw a line. You're then going to make little cuts about every 1/2 inch or so up to that line, Eventually you are going to make a cylinder with this piece of paper, and then those little tabs that you cut are going to lay flat so that you can glue it onto the top of the pumpkin. I then took some green paint and painted the stem parts green. I also added some brown streaks in there just to make it a little bit more realistic looking. Once your stem is painted, you are then going to paint your pumpkin. It doesn't matter if you do this part first or paint the stem first, either one works. Now last year I made an orange and a black pumpkin, so this year I'm actually going to paint this pumpkin white. And you might be wondering why I'm painting it white when I already used white paper to make it. So the reason for this is because I did use scraps of printer paper. There is some ink spots on these scraps where you can see the previous things that I was trying to print out on them. So I'm going to just use that white paint to cover that up and kind of just give it a nice even finish with the same white paint all around. And since real pumpkins have ridges on them, I actually took some white and brown paint and made a light beige color. And then I'm just painting some streaks down the sides of the pumpkin to kind of give it that ridged effect. Of course, this is completely optional, so don't feel like you need to do this step. And the next fun step we're going to do is actually pick out our jack-o'-lantern design. So I actually found this cool skull design on Google and drew that on. Of course, when you're drawing your design, don't worry about making a mistake. You can always just cover that up with some paint later. Once your design is all finished, you're going to take a small knife or X-Acto blade and cut out that design. Of course, since we are working with paper, be careful with some of these smaller sections. It is easy to rip through it. I definitely did a few times. Don't freak out if you do though. You can always just glue some paper right onto the area that you ripped. Once your design is all cut out, you're going to flip your jack-o'-lantern over, and on the back you're going to make an opening for a tea light. So I am using a battery operated tea light. We are using paper, so I don't want to start a fire. So I'm just marking with the knife where the opening is going to be for the tea light, just to make sure it's big enough. Then I made an oval shape and cut that out. I didn't cut it out completely. I did leave a section uncut at the top, so that serves as a flap where you can open and close it to put the tea light in and out. Now for some finishing touches. Because we do have layers of paper here, unfortunately not all of them are going to bond well with the paper mache mixture. So as you can see, some of the layers will split. So what I did was just take some glue and put that between the layers, and then use a paper clip to hold them together until they dried. And then as you can see here, I did glue the stem onto the top of the pumpkin and covered up that hole. And then the last thing I do is add a layer of Mod Podge to the outside of the pumpkin. I chose the matte finish. Of course, you can choose the satin or gloss if you prefer. This layer I put on just to give the pumpkin some extra protection. I don't plan on putting these out in the rain, but just in case it ever does drizzle on Halloween, it has a little bit more protection on it so that it doesn't get soaked. And here's our finished jack-o'-lantern. See you all in the next video. Hit that like button and subscribe.